So we'll discuss NetWeaver Java Stack Administration. Okay.
Yeah.
So at the time of our starting classes of SAP Basis, we discussed about the Java Stack architecture and the Web Stack architecture and dual stack architecture, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
And SAP NetWeaver also we have discussed. SAP NetWeaver is a platform, okay. Based on that platform, it was introduced dual stack systems, ABAP stack and Java stack, and dual stack systems it was introduced, right? So on the top of stacks, either Java stack or dual stack or ABAP stack, we have our NetWeaver components like portal, enterprise portal, BI, business intelligence, XI. Previously it was XI, now PI, process integration. Previously we called it as XI, exchange infrastructure. Now we call it as a process integration. There are so many network components are built based on my stacks, base components of stacks. What are the stacks? ABAP stack as well as the Java stack, right? So whenever we are talking about the Java stack architecture, if you remember, we have some services are there in Java stack architecture. I think you remember we discussed Java stack architecture at the time of beginning our classes, right? And ABAP stack architecture also we discussed, right? In ABAP stack architecture, what services we have? Message server, dispatcher, gateway, ICM, and different types of work processes are there, correct? So whenever we are talking about a Java stack architecture, also we have a different services are there. What are the different services? Here also we have a message server, NQ server, Java dispatcher, ICM, and server process and SDM. Correct? So same message server, central services service, NQ server, Java dispatcher. These all are same ICM. These all are same into my ABAP stack architecture also. Okay. So how my Java stack architecture will receive the user request? My Java stack architecture will receive the user request, okay, through browsers, correct? If you see this diagram, I have a ICM, Internet Communication Manager, and Java dispatchers, gateway, message server, NQ server, and Java server process. Actually, in ABAP stack architecture, my user request will be handled by my work process only. So in Java stack architecture, my user request will be handled by my Java server process. Okay, Java server process, SP. SP means server process. Ultimately, my user request will be handled by my Java server process. One server process, whenever you have installed a Java stack system, one server process will be installed by default, server 0. The server process name is server 0. Okay, one server process, how my n number of user requests can handle my one server process. Then my server process will work as a multi-thread mechanism. Means one server process can handle n number of user requests. It is a multi-thread mechanism. So based on that, one server process is enough to handle the n number of user requests. Okay, and If required, we can add one more server process also. If we required, we can add one more server process to my Java stack system. Okay, I have installed Java stack system. By default, I got one server process. The server process name is server 0. Okay, and if required, if I have a requirement, then I can add second server process also to my Java stack system. Okay, and every server process we have a Java virtual machine parameters, JVM parameters. We called it as a JVM parameters. Okay, those are virtual memory parameters, Java virtual memory parameters, JVM parameters. We called it as a JVM parameters. Like every Java server process will have a JVM parameters. What is mean by JVM parameters? It is a memory parameters of my Java server process. When I can add server process to my Java stack system, whenever my JVM parameters are exceeded to my server process, whenever my response time is very high of my Java stack system, whenever my n number of user requests is not able to handle by my server process. So at that scenarios, at that time, we can add one more server process to my Java stack system. Whenever you have added server process to Java stack system, okay, this is the second server process I have added. Okay, for this server process also we have a JVM parameters. Okay, so ultimately my user request will be handled by my Java server process only. Okay, whenever I got a browser request, this browser request will be assigned to ICM. And ICM, what it will do, the browser request will be handled by ICM, Internet Communication Manager, and ICM can send that browser request to my Java dispatcher, to my Java dispatcher, to my Java dispatcher. Then my Java dispatcher can send the user request to my Java server process. So Java server process will handle my user request. And in Java stack, we have a message server and enqueue server. The message server and enqueue server, we call it as a, what we call it as Java Central Services Instance. Java cluster architecture. Java cluster installation consists of one or more instances, and the central services which also as an instance. One or several databases. You see here. Whenever I receive HTTP request means what? It's a browser request, correct? It's a browser request. The browser request will be received by my Java dispatcher, and Java dispatcher will send the user request to my server process. My server process will handle the user request. If required, my server process will talk to my database and it will take the data and it will execute the user request and it will send back the output to my user. And apart from this, my message server is a will maintain the communication between the Java dispatchers, and it will maintain the information, like the state of information of my Java dispatcher, whether my Java dispatcher is working properly or not. Who will take care? My message server will take care. And enqueue server. And what is the use of enqueue server? Whenever one object in Java stack architecture, one object is assigning or changing, okay, by my two users at a time, then what will happen? Okay, then my NQ server will hold a lock on that particular user ID on that particular object. Whenever the user request has been completed on that particular object, then what will happen? The lock will be released automatically by my Java stack system, and the lock will be assigned to the next another waiting user. Okay, so this process will be handled by my NQ server. So the combination, the message server and NQ server, we call it as a central services instance. And apart from this, we have a SDM tool, SDM Software Deployment Manager tool. Using SDM, we can deploy or we can upgrade Java components. How we are upgrading our patches in my ABAP stack system. We have a components, right, in ABAP stack system. So for each component, we have a versions and patch levels, correct? So how we are upgrading the patches in ABAP stack system, same concept, but installation or upgrade process is different for Java stack system, correct? So at the same concept in Java stack system, the components upgrade, if we require a components upgrade, we require a SDM tool. Through SDM tool, we can upgrade Java software components. Software Deployment Manager, SDM means. See, the minimal Java installation consists of a central instance, okay, and central services and database. Java instance consists of, with exception of central services, means Java dispatcher and one or more server processes. What is meant by Java instance? The combination of my Java dispatcher and server process, we call it as a one instance, one Java instance. If I have a dialog instances also for my Java stack, where my SDM is there. If I have a more instances for Java installation, then I have a Java dispatcher, Java dispatcher, Java dispatcher, and server process I have, server process I have, server process. SDM will be only one for my Java system. SDM will be only one for my Java system. And message server and NQ server, these my central services. Okay, and whenever n number of browser requests are came, all the requests will be assigned to the Java dispatchers. The Java dispatcher ultimately it will send the user request to my server process. So how it will do a load balancing? Okay, the load will be distributed between the Java dispatchers, means Java instances by a load balancer. Okay. What is meant by Java instance? The structure. See, this is my Java dispatcher and this is my server process. Means whenever we discussed in ABAP stack architecture, in work process also we have some components are there, right? ABAP interpreter, database interface, correct? So like that, we have some components, some of the components are there in Java dispatcher also and Java server process also. How it is uh, receiving my user request. This is my browser client. This is my user request. So it will receive to the first of all it will receive by my dispatcher, Java dispatcher. By my Java dispatcher. Okay. So in Java dispatcher we have a connection objects, HTTP services, communication handler. So after that Java dispatcher we have a server process. the request will be assigned to the server process. In server process also we have a communication handler, okay, and request queue. It will place the request in a queue, and first come first serve basis user request will be executed, and HTTP services and JSP serverless app services. Means these are my Java related user request. So we have a Java servlets, Java application services inbuilt are there in my server process. So my server process can execute the Java related user request. We will see so this is not an important in-depth of dispatcher, in-depth of server process. This is not an important. First, we need to understand how my Java dispatcher is working, how my server process is working, how my SDM is working, how my server process, dispatcher, gateway, ICM, SDM is working. So about SDM, what is meant by SDM? Software Deployment Manager. What is the use of SDM? To use it to deploy the software components of my Java stack system. Okay, whenever I'm calling a SDM tool, SDM GUI will be open. Okay, it will ask you the SDM password, and how it will do? It will connect to my J2 engine as well as file systems. File system is at operating system level, and it will connect to my database also. SDM GUI, how it will connect, how it will execute the components. It will connect, the SDM GUI will be connected to SDM server. SDM server is not a separate component. Okay, in SDM itself, we have SDM, we have seen the SDM in a diagram, right? So this is SDM. So in SDM itself, we have some server repository. So how my whenever I have open SDM tool, that is SDM GUI, how the GUI is connecting in the backend. Whenever you have opened, it will ask you the password of SDM password, and it will connect to my SDM server if password is correct, and the SDM server will connect to my database, Java database, and J2 engine means Java stack engine, and file system at operating system level also. So using this connectivity, it will inbuilt the connection will be built inbuilt only. Whenever you have provided the correct password of SDM. Okay, it will connect to Java stack system, Java database, and file system at operating system level. Now, I have a Java stack systems. I have a different Java stack systems. Different Java stack instances, not systems, not systems. Different instances are there. So instance 1, instance 2, instance 3, and central services instance. The combination of all these instances I call it as a Java stack system. Okay, in my Java stack system, how many instances are there? Central services instance 1, Java instance 1, Java instance 2, Java instance 3. Okay, the combination of all these instances, we call it as a Java stack system. Okay, and whenever my user requests are coming from different locations, what type of user request I received? I can receive the HTTP user type request, right? So this HTTP user request can be redirected to all my Java instances. How it will redirect? Using, I can use a SAP Web Dispatcher. I can use a SAP Web Dispatcher. SAP Web Dispatcher is a small installation. It's a small application which can install, how we are installing SAP application software through SAP INSC tool only, correct? So in the same procedure, we can install SAP Web Dispatcher also. Same procedure using SAP INSC and same inputs. So using SAP INSC tool, we can install SAP Web Dispatcher. Okay, and what is SAP Web Dispatcher? It will receive the user request, okay, and it will have the information from the message server, okay, and based on that message server, it can identify how many dispatches, Java dispatches are there, how many Java dispatches are there. See here, see this diagram. First of all, it will have a communication between the message server of my Java stack system. Using this communication from the message server, the dispatcher will know how many Java dispatches are there, how many Java dispatches are up and running, how many Java dispatches are running. How my web dispatcher will know? My web dispatcher will collect that information from my message server. Why? Because my message server will maintain the communication between the distributed dispatchers of my all the instances within a Java stack system. Okay, and based on that Java dispatcher information, my SAP Web Dispatcher will send the user request to different SAP Web Dispatchers within a Java stack system. Okay, and what is the purpose of my Web Dispatcher? The Web Dispatcher can be used for load balancing. Load balancing purpose we can use it. And as described, all the user requests will be forwarded to J2E engine. All the distribution procedures using URL prefix in SAP Web Dispatcher documentation are not relevant. Okay. This Web Dispatcher, I can use it for ABAP stack system also or Java stack system also. It is not a mandatory for we need to use it for Java stack system only. Okay, we can use it for ABAP stack systems also. We can use it for Java stack systems also, and mainly it will use it for load balancing purpose, and it will redirect the URLs. It will redirect the URLs to my Java engine, means Java stack system. Okay. Now, one more main important is, whenever we are talking about ABAP stack architecture, whenever we started ABAP stack architecture, when you started your SAP system, the SAP system is a ABAP stack system, then what will happen at the back end? SAP started survey will be started, and it will read the profile parameters. It will start the message server. It will start the database, sorry, dispatcher. It will start the gateway server, ICM, and it will start different types of work processes, correct? So that is the flow of my ABAP stack, correct? So whenever we are talking about Java stack, okay, how my Java stack is going to start? Okay, in Java stack we have a different framework we have. Okay, using that framework, my Java server will be start. My Java application software, my Java application will be start using a different framework. The framework name is Startup and Control Framework. Startup and Control Framework. Startup and Control Framework. Okay. In Startup and Control Framework, we have a two types. One is a J control, another one is a J launch process. Okay, J control is one of the process and J launch is one of the process. And whenever you started your Java system, the startup control framework will be start. Okay, and the startup framework control, this framework, what it contains, it will contains it using this framework. We can start the Java stack system and we can stop the Java stack systems. Okay, and also we can monitor the Java stack system using a startup and control framework. In startup control framework, we have two different components are there, means two different processes are there. There are two different processes. What are the two different processes? One is a J control, another one is a J launch process. What is meant by J control? What it contains? Whenever my startup framework has been started, okay, so J control, it will start and it will stop the monitor and it will also process the Java instances. Okay, primarily what type of services? Primarily the server and the dispatcher. Message server means message server and the dispatcher processes will be start, and it will give a signal to implement the J control to forward the start stop commands to process of my Java stack. Okay, and J control, it will restart automatically which are the processes are terminated. If any process has been terminated, my J control will be restarted automatically. And also any process has been hanged, then my J control what will do? My J control will end the process, end that process. And after that it will give you once end the process, it will shut down the process and it will restart the process again automatically. Okay, and after that J control, it will read the description of the instance from profile files. We have a Java profiles, so it will read the profiles also. After that my J control, it will start the J launch process. We have two processes, right? One is the J control process, another one is a J launch process. My J control will start the J launch process. Okay, and J launch will start to do some activities. What is the activities? My J launch will start the Java programs and JVM parameters of my Java instance of my Java server, and J launch will receive the commands from the J control. Why? Because J control has been started the J launch process. So J launch ultimately it will receive the commands from J control process. Based on that commands, it will stop the cluster elements and it will start the cluster elements. What is meant by cluster elements? It's nothing but a dispatcher and message servers. Dispatcher or servers. And J launch process will be end itself when the parent process has been stopped. What is the parent process of my J launch? J launch parent process is J control. Why? Because J control is starting the J launch process. So J launch process parent control is J control. If for example my J control has been shut down, my J control process has been stopped, then ultimately the child process, the J launch process also will be stopped. So this is the procedure how my Java stack system is going to start, going to stop using a startup and control framework. In startup and control framework, we have two processes are there. One is J control and J control process. Another one is a J launch process. Okay. So start process of Java instance. Start procedure of startup and control framework. Whenever startup control framework started, automatically J control will be started. J control is one of the process. J control, what it will do, it starts a Java instance bootstrap properties. We have a properties files, right? Java stack system. That property file we call it as a bootstrap.properties. This is the properties name. bootstrap.properties. It will read this properties information. Where this file will be saved? USR, SAP, SID, instance, J2E, cluster, bootstrap folder. This is the location of my bootstrap.properties. It will start a Java instance bootstrap process with the parameters that are defined in this file. There are default parameters will be defined in this bootstrap.properties file. It will read and it will start the processes. And where it will store USR SAP SID, instance, J2E, cluster, bootstrap folder. Okay, and this Java instance bootstrap process, it will read the instance description from the Java schema of the database. Whenever we discussed in ABAP stack, okay, we have a ABAP schema will be created at the time of installation, correct? So at the same concept, whenever we are installing Java stack system at database level also, means Java database level also, Java related Java schema will be created. Using that Java schema ID only, my objects will be called from the database level. So whenever Java instance bootstrap process reads the instance description from the Java schema of my database, it will read my instance description. How I can know which instance it is? The instance description it will read from the database level through Java schema owner. This Java schema owner will be installed at the time of a installation of my Java stack system. Okay, and my Java instance bootstrap process stores instance.properties. It contains the instance description, operating systems and all. Instance.properties also we have one more file, instance.properties. What it contains, instance.properties means instance related information. What is my instance, what is the description, okay, and what is the instance services needs to be started. Those information will be stored in instance.properties. And this JControl will read the instance description from the file system. And JControl will start the bootstrap process as a specific Java nodes. And JControl, it will create a connection from central services message server if this connection is established successfully. So after that, what it will do? JControl will be start JLaunch process. JLaunch will be start my JVM parameters. So this is the diagram what we discussed. See, startup and control framework. JControl will be started, and it will read the binaries. It will read the instance descriptions, and it will store the instance descriptions in a file from a Java stack. This is Java database. This is my Java schema. And it will read the description of the dispatchers, server nodes from the file systems, and it will connect to my central services, and last it will start JLaunch process. The JLaunch process, what it will do, it will start the dispatcher node and JVM, server node and JVM. JVM means what? JVM parameters. Okay, so this is the procedure of my startup and control framework. How my JControl process and JLaunch process is starting. I will send you this document, and please go through this document. Using this document, you can understand how my Java Stack instance is going to start. In Java Stack instance, what are the processes are there? Whenever you are listening at the first time, you will get some bit confusion. Like we are discussing a new words, right? J-control is a new word, J-launch is a new word, startup and control framework is a new word. So these are the Java stack related naming conversions of my SAP system. Okay. This we will discuss later. JCMon. JCMon is a tool. Okay. Using JCMon tool, what we can do? We can monitor J control processes. Okay. JCMon is a part of a startup and control framework. Okay. How we can, this JCMon can be started with the command of JCMon and PF equals to SAP instance profile name. Okay, and using JCMon tool we can do administration of my Java instance, Java clusters. We can start the Java cluster, we can stop the Java cluster. Okay, and we have a dpmon command in ABAP stack system, correct? Did you remember dpmon? We will execute at operating system level. dpmon equals to pf equals to log into the operating system level with SID ADM. Yes, yes. So SID ADM and call dpmon command, dpmon and space pf equals to instance profile. Using that we can administrate our different types of work processes, right? So in Java stack system we have a JCMon tool. Okay, how I can open a JCMon tool? Using this command. Log into the operating system level, go to JCMon command space pf equals to Java stack instance profile. Java stack instance
We should
profile.
be in the profile folder, no? While typing this command.
Yes.
Okay.
Or if you are in different folder, you need to mention here enter the path of my instance profile.
Yeah.
Okay, so JCMon space pf equals to instance profile location. Okay, then the JCMon will be open. This is the JCMon tool. Okay, and here cluster administration menu, the number is 10. Okay, the number is 10. So here you can shut down the instance, you can start the instance, you can restart the instances, and see, 20 is for local administration menu. Local administration menu means what? In JCMon, through JCMon, I can see the dispatcher information, server 0 information, SDM server information. Means whether these services are running or not, the status, running. And each service also, whenever each service is started, each services will have some process ID also. The process ID is assigned to at operating system level. So these services are running at my operating system level only, correct? So based on this services, my Java system is up and running. So if it is ABAP stack system, we are monitoring in MMC, right? So if it is a Java stack system, we can monitor this using JCMon command also. Means JCMon tool also. Okay. And whenever we are talking about ABAP stack system, all the services like message server, gateway server, dispatcher, different types of work processes, all the services, all work processes will have a log files, correct? Where these log files will be stored in a work directory, correct? So in the same concept, Java stack also we have a log files for message server, enqueue server, server process, Java dispatcher, Java gateway server. So we have a log files are there, and J control is one of the process, right? So J control also we have a server, we have a log file, and server process also we have a log file. All the log files where it will be stored in a work directory only. USR SAP SID instance name, under instance name work directory. In work directory we can see the different types of log files: J control log file, dispatcher log file, Java message server log file, okay, and Java server process log file. These are the different types of log files. If your system is not coming up, then if we required log file information, then we can go to the work directory and we can refer the log files information. Memory management of Java. What is meant by memory management? It's a virtual memory, virtual machine parameters, JVM parameters, right? So those JVM parameters are like this: initial, maximum, virtual memory, memory management. We will discuss tomorrow. Okay. Once memory management has been completed, then how I can administrate my Java stack system using a different tools. We have a different tools like configuration tool, visual administrator tool, NetWeaver administrator tool.
This memory management will be only for Java or web also?
No, it's only for Java. Those we call it as a JVM parameters. So JVM parameters is only for Java system only. So Java memory management and Java administration tools we need to discuss. Okay. And once we these two topics are completed, then Java administration has been completed. Okay. Tomorrow we will discuss Java memory management and the Java administration tools. Means what is the Java administration tools? If you want to do some administration work, if you want to do some parameters changes, then we require some tools in Java administration. So SAP has provided some tools. Using the tools, you can do some activities. Those tools are config tool, visual administrator tool, NetWeaver administrator tool. These are the different types of tools are there. Okay. Using each and every tool, we can do some activities. We will see what type of activities we can perform using the tools. Got it?
In SAP NetWeaver part, what is role administration?
The role administration is Java stack administration. That is the main role. How you are doing ABAP stack administration?
Okay.
So same concept in Java stack administration, but execution method is different compared to ABAP stack and Java stack. Because ABAP stack you have a T codes. You can execute the T and you can do administration, you can see the log files, you can do activities and all the things. But in Java stack we don't have a T codes. We have some tools are there at operating system level. Using the tools we can do some administration work for Java stack system. Okay. Tomorrow we'll meet in same time. Okay.